This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I've tried to experiment. I have two TV monitors here in the studio with me, and there's three cable networks. And so I've been, the last year or so, it's been CNN and MSNBC, but I flipped CNN for Fox. And so I've been watching the Chiron on Fox all morning. It was fascinating, the conversations that they've been having about, why is the mainstream media so hard on Donald Trump, and how the mainstream media lies about Trump, and, can you trust the mainstream media? It's like, you really do get a sense that these guys live in a completely separate universe. But the breaking news on Fox so-called news right now is that the Republicans are going to hold a vote on their Trump care bill on Friday. Today is Wednesday. So day after tomorrow, the Republicans are going to come back and say, okay, we're going to try this again. And see, what has happened is by pulling the bill, Mitch McConnell has caused all the air to go out. He's kind of deflated the opposition. The opposition's all, congratulating themselves and planning their 4th of July weekend. And that's how these guys are going to slip this thing through. So do not stop. Go to TrumpCareToolkit.org and tweet out to everybody, and this. I mean, they're gonna do it again. And now you've got a few Congress people. Amy Klobuchar is on Fox right now saying, "Yeah, we can do this on a bipartisan basis." Right? And Senator Collins, the Republican from Maine, has said, we can do this on a bipartisan basis. Well, on a bipartisan basis, give me single-payer health care. A bunch of news today that I wanted to get through. Some smaller things. Let me just kind of clear the board with these. Not smaller. These are important things, but they're just kind of one-off stories. There's a new movie about the prosecution, the political assassination of Don Siegelman, a friend of this show and a great guy, the former governor of Alabama, a Democrat who might well have been president of the United States. He was on that path. And then Karl Rove decided to take him down. And he did, and Siegelman ended up in prison. And the show has played, it's called Atticus versus the Architect, the political assassination of Don Siegelman. And it has already shown in Birmingham and Atlanta. And it was going to play at the Capri Theater in Montgomery, Alabama, except that the movie points out that Siegelman was being prosecuted in part by... Bob Riley was the guy that Siegelman lost to. He actually defeated him in the 2002 election for governor of Alabama. He went to bed, he'd won. When he woke up, a Republican operative in one particular congressional district had discovered 15,000 people whose votes at the top of the ticket for governor, even though they voted for Democrats down ticket, they had all actually voted for the Republican, Bob Riley. When Don Siegelman started complaining about this, he soon found himself in prison. And the federal prosecutor at the time was a woman named Laura Canary. Her husband was managing Bob Riley's campaign. She's the one who started the prosecution against him. And so turns out she's on the board of this theater. And so the theater is refusing to play the movie. So I don't know if you are in the area of or have any influence with the Capri Theater, CAPRI, in Montgomery, Alabama, but you might want to let them know if you'd like to see the movie. Let's see, the title of the movie is Atticus versus the Architect. And, of course, Atticus Finch, from Gone with the Wind. Atticus is Don Siegelman, and the architect, of course, is Karl Rove. So it's Don Siegelman versus Karl Rove. Public Citizen. I got this email today from Rob Weissman, who is the head guy over at Public Citizen. And, I mean, it's part of a mass email. It's just not unique to me. It went out to, probably thousands of people. But it's pretty important stuff. He says, Tom, tonight I'm going to be outside the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., just down the street from the White House. I'll be protesting outside a fundraiser that President Trump will be holding inside. Trump declared his 2020 campaign the day that he was inaugurated. Or maybe the day after. It was one or the other, but I think it was the day that he was inaugurated. And so all of these events where he has these loving crowds, They're not actually President Goes to Meet the People events. They're campaign events where only campaign donors are allowed in. So he knows he's going to have a loving crowd, right? So, and he's raising money for his reelection, and he's using that money in a whole variety of ways, by and large politically, which he can legally do. But anyhow, back to Rob Weissman's email. He says, I'll be protesting outside a fundraiser that Donald Trump will be holding in the Trump International Hotel in D.C. tonight. The price of a ticket, $35,000. 91 million Americans make less than that every year. If you want to be on the host committee, it's $100,000. 227 million Americans make less than that. He says, our signs will point out that the fundraiser will benefit Trump personally through payments to his hotel, a hotel in a building he leases from the federal government. And then they go through a whole bunch of other things that a Public Citizen has been doing, which are absolutely brilliant. PublicCitizen.org or Citizen.org, excuse me, Citizen.org is their website, and I encourage you to check it out. And if you're in D.C. tonight, you might want to at least know that there is a protest going on of a Trump fundraiser at the Trump Hotel. Time magazine is upset. The headline was confusing to me the first time I read it. It says, Time asks Trump organization to remove fake cover from golf clubs. And I thought, who puts a magazine on a golf club? You know, what, are they wadding them up and covering the heads of the clubs with them or something? And then I realized it's like golf clubs like Mar-a-Lago, you know, or New Jersey or whatever the name of it is. Time magazine has asked the Trump organization to remove copies of a fake cover of Time magazine of President Trump that were on display at the company's golf clubs, the Washington Post reported yesterday afternoon. The request came after the newspaper reported that at least 4 Trump-branded clubs had displayed a fake Time magazine cover that depicted Trump with the headline, Donald Trump, the apprentice is a television smash. Right. So there's that. A Trump lawyer, maybe you saw Jay Sekulow on TV last week, you know, going out there. I did not. I had no idea about this until I read this reporting. It's in the Washington Post today. The story I'm reading from is by John Swain in New York from The Guardian. The headline, Trump lawyer targets poor for donations to fight Obamacare via charity that pays his family millions. And I'll just share a little bit of this article with you. Jay Sekulow, who this month again directed fundraisers for Christian Advocates Serving Evangelism, CASE, to push people for contributions if they said they could not afford to give money to the group, according to a contract obtained by The Guardian. Fundraisers, seriously, this guy, Trump's lawyer, runs a Christian charity. Now, here's where it gets amazing. Fundraisers were asked, these are people making phone calls to you, begging for money if you're a Christian. Fundraisers were told that if asked for information on Sekulow, the guy who is the head of it, they should say, he never charges for his services. However, since 2000, the not-for-profit group and an affiliate have steered more than $60 million to Sekulow, members of his family, and businesses that where they hold senior roles. You get this? Begging for money from poor Christians and pushing them hard. I mean, you know, it's just pushing them really hard. This is one of the, Sekulow himself did this recorded message back in 2011. Islamic extremists are heading in your direction, and you are most likely the main target. Islamist will succeed if we don't do something right away. And telemarketers were instructed to tell people who initially said they could not donate that Islamist extremists will succeed if we don't do something right away. If the person resisted a second time, the script said to tell them, it sounds like you really want to help. The group raises more than $40 million a year, mostly from small contributions made by Christians across the U.S. who receive alarmist political messages by telephone or in the mail. The instructions to the telephone fundraisers: listen, empathize, and relate to people who said that they could not afford to donate to CASE before pushing those people twice more for an urgently needed gift. A script signed by Sekulow told the marketers to, quote, overcome the objection to donating, end quote, and to tell the person on the line that, quote, many people are finding ways to help with smaller amounts as well. People receiving calls in 2010 who declined to donate on the grounds they generally could not afford to contribute were told by telemarketers, quote, I wouldn't call if this weren't an absolute emergency. They point out abortions were funded by Obamacare, which is not true. And just in the time we've talked, this is from the script that the telemarketers used for Sekulow's charity. Just in the time we've talked, 3 more innocent babies have lost their lives. Millions of lives may be at stake. This is if you were still resistant to donating. People who initially resisted a request to donate money in 2012 were told, quote, unbelievably, through Obamacare, Planned Parenthood could run a health care clinic in your child or grandchild's middle school or high school and receive federal dollars to do it, end quote. Callers in 2014 who said they could not donate were warned, it's clear that Planned Parenthood's primary motivation is the dollar. Right. Ironically, that year, again, quoting from The Guardian today, that year, Sekulow's not-for-profit groups paid him and 3 companies where he held leading roles $4.8 million in compensation contracts. His brother Gary received a pay package totaling $848,000 for being chief financial officer and chief operating officer. A production company owned by Gary's wife, Pam, was paid $677,000 in contracts. Gary and Pam's son, Adam, received $237,000 as director of development. Another $139,529 in compensation was shared by Jay Sekulow's wife, the secretary for the not-for-profit group, and their 2 sons who were directors. Wow. I mean, doesn't that kind of tell you everything you need to know about the Trump administration and the people around them? And finally, well, actually, I'll get to this a little later on, but they just some amazing information on how the bacteria in your skin or on your skin, or both, is actually is used by your body to fight eczema and acne. I got to tell you about this. Plus, deregulation in the UK finally under the microscope with the Grenfell Tower fire. Be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And, of course, it's Anything Goes Summer, so anything you want to talk about, we'll pick up your calls right after.